Hello, I'm Frankie, and this is my 7th podcast for the class. Today we're going over a couple different topics: sustainability, food, innovation of plant breeding, and stuff like that. Let's get right into it. First, we're going to talk about sustainability, abundance, and ecological crisis. This was the first section we were assigned. When talking about sustainability or ecological crisis, the first thing that comes to mind is land and the landscape around us. Before reading this, I never really realized how much of the world around us we actually change. The flat areas we use for farming and agriculture were all crafted with technology. An example of how far you can come in a short time would be in 1890s, a single-use farmer could produce 380 bushels of wheat, and in 1830, with the same amount of time, they could only produce 20 bushels. That's pretty much only 1 or 2 generations apart. On the topic of sustainability, we talk a lot about amazing new advancements that at the time seemed very necessary and useful, such as using farmland, using fossil fuels for vehicles, or building dams. All of these things give us immediate resources to call upon or use, but think about the long-term effects. Overcropping certain areas leaves lots of minerals in the land, which can cause it a bad place to keep producing food. Fossil fuels burn carbon monoxide into the area, creating global warming. The excessive use of dams leaves mineral in the land for the large amounts of water, also leaving it useless to farm on. Western technologies have been used to create abundance, but at a high environmental cost. In the 20s alone, the United States lost to erosive topsoil that took 1,000 years to form, and it continues to lose topsoil at a rate of 1.7 billion tons a year. Even if, despite pollution and overuse of resources, people have increased abundance for all. Are they happier as a result? According to some polls, even though the gross national product had doubled, Americans of the 1990s were no happier than they had been in 1957. Their work hours had increased, while time spent with family and friends had decreased. And this was because of an increase in product. Thoreau talks about technology in a light not seen by many today. We look at technology as a tool to further something in our lives. Dishwashers wash dishes, cars get you from place to place faster. Yet what are the unintended consequences? Wasting more money, more water than you would normally, while also taking power to use. Cars may take you from place to place. Cars may take you from one place to another faster than foot, but what about all the hours you had to work to buy that car? What about the gas and damages, which will continuously cost you money to use? He sees it as being a slave to technology, where you have to work extra hours to be able to use these things. I personally have never really thought about it in this way, but it seems pretty clear now. How many hours do I have on my computer? I have over 1,500 hours on a single game called Apex, and that's only one game out of my entire library of games, and all of that to receive a rank. The time I've put into my computer far outweighs the actual cost that I have to put into it, while the computer itself costs around $2,000. It's an interesting topic, being a slave to technology. Let's go on to innovation in plant breeding for a sustainable supply of high quality plant raw materials. It's the second one. In this section, we talk about agriculture and how food is processed and how much of this food we will need to feed everyone. We have calculations for how much food we will need in the coming years, and it's shocking how much more we will need to produce in just 2050 compared to 2016. We will need to increase our production by nearly 70%. All of this while still trying to be self-sufficient during the entire process. which is very, very hard. They go over environmental issues, quality of the soil, synthesis along with genetic-based techniques for breeding plants. All of these are tools that will help us produce more food, and over the last 50 to 80 years, genetic innovation and aromatic practices have increased crops by over 50%. I'm also sure that with further research, this number will increase. But I find it hard to believe that something like this will simply solve all of our problems. Who is to say that these practices will eventually cause more problems, such as the production of coal or dams? We go over GMOs and how they have helped crops bring out or forget certain traits, yet the problem is that it's hard to find these traits within the food, and that it's a newer source of food is labeled as non-natural products, and people are wary of them. The preceding description of the main challenges faced by plant breeding and different techniques developed to turn them around, or their constraints, should lead decisions makers to understand that innovation in plant genetics is not breeding, cellular biology, molecular biology, have all been developed and validated on different crops. All of these different new innovations and technologies we have into breeding plants work. They've shown a lot of results. There's just a lot of other problems with it. It's interesting. I'd like to go more into it, but I don't quite have time. Let's go on to the next section. The internet of just about everything. In this section, we talk about food and cooking. They seem to be going over the purpose of or drive behind food in a way. They talk about certain upsides or diets for people who try to eat only organic food, aka not processed. I find this a little stupid considering all of the upsides that have been brought about with GMOs and genetic engineering, all of the new crops and bigger crops and less pesticides, and I see a lot of upsides with it personally. They go over a new product that will essentially cook for us. It will do everything, including preparing all ingredients, cutting, cleaning, mashing, mixing, and cooking in the largest sense, including operations such as boiling, steaming, broiling, searing, frying, and some as well as automatically and independently preparing, organizing, and decorating the dish, as well as serving it at the end of the meal, making everything disappear in their robot kingdoms. So that was a mouthful. They're essentially saying they're going to make a robot that cooks the food you want. You say, I want this, it chops it, cuts it, cooks it, sears it, does all that for you. And I find that very interesting. I personally have a passion for cooking and love being able to create my own masterpieces at home with my own hands. I find it relaxing and an amazing way to have a good time with another person. Yes, I mainly cook for myself, but there's nothing like eating a home-cooked meal with friends or family. It brings people together. With this being said, the idea of a robot that cooks, prepares, and cleans itself sounds rather appealing and would save me a lot of time. I would be able to have meals made without spending upwards of an hour cooking a single meal. Although the idea of streamlining meals seems a little scary, we might lose what makes cooking so amazing in the future. The time spent with friends and family. It's the... not perception, it's what's brought about with cooking that I really enjoy. So thank you for coming to my podcast.